Hello, my name is Brian Archer and I'm one of the rangers here at Chickamauga and Chattanooga National Military Park. Did you know that when you come to the Chickamauga Battlefild, you're actually coming to a place where a lot more happened than just an American Civil War battle? There is much more military history that happens here on this ground. With the establishment of this park in 1890, this was used. This park is going to be used for a study ground, basically, and part of the enabling legislation to make this a military park. It said it was used for the purpose of preserving and suitably marking for historical and professional study the fields of some of the most remarkable maneuvers and the most brilliant fighting in the War of Rebellion. So the War Department then, which is, as we know today, as our Department of Defense, they are the ones that's going to set this thing up. And then with this legislation, the park will actually be able to be used during other conflicts, such as the Spanish-American War, World War I, and World War II, as a training facility for these soldiers. So today we're basically going to concentrate more on the World War II aspect of this thing. The park was used during World War II as a training facility for the 3rd WAC unit. This, as we were drawn into the World War II through the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the WAC Women's Army Corps was established, and this gave the women an opportunity to serve their country, because their motto was basically, it's your war too. So this allowed the women to come in and serve, and allowed the men that were stationed here in the States doing clerical work and other things, mechanical, whatever. The ladies would train for those jobs and allow those men to be able to be transferred over to the European theater and the Pacific to fight in those places. So today we are going to go down to the ruins of this 3rd WAC training facility. Much of those ruins are still here. This gives us a very tangible, something that we can touch, as part of this nation's history. We still have it here on this Civil War battlefield. Today, when you come into the visitor center, you'll be able to see a temporary exhibit here honoring those women that trained here at Chickamauga and Fort Oglethorpe. This exhibit here contains a uniform that one of the WACs would have worn. Also some other stuff here. Really want to pay attention here to the foot locker. We'll see a little bit more about the foot locker a little bit later in the program, but gives you a little bit of information. Plus over here we have a exhibit shows some of the personal effects the women would have carried in their purse, and also we have a little film here that's you're able to see not only it's actually used as a training, or not a training, but a recruitment film, because like I said, the name of it is Your War II. This was used to get those ladies interested in maybe wanting to serve in the service. That film can actually be seen through the National Archives, but it's a very good little film, and it does a lot for our nation's women's military history, the very start of it. So if you come along with me today, we'll go down to those ruins, and we'll talk about what some of those buildings were used for, and see where these women actually trained. All right, so where I'm standing at now is the entrance to Tour Stop 1 today. This was the main entrance into the 3rd WAC training facility, and you can see here 3 soldiers sitting on the entrance sign for the 3rd WAC training facility here that was located just right here behind me. And you can also see here on the Lafayette Road, there's a car going by, and just much the same as it is today. But just bear in mind now that this entrance here is where 50,000, or a little over 50,000 WAC soldiers came in to basically train to serve their country, to turn those men loose and let them go to the different theaters. So come with me now. We're going to go into the interior of the 3rd WAC training facility and look at some of those buildings and talk about what they were used for. So come with me. Okay, so now I have moved on into the interior of the 3rd WAC training facility, and this was a very large complex. You can tell here by this map that we have that shows you know, over 700 acres of this major complex, many buildings out here, and we are fortunate to have a map of this place along with a grid that we can tell what each of the buildings were. They're numbered. Just like where I'm standing at here right now, I'm standing in front of T1620. And according to this picture here that we have, which again we're very fortunate to have, of these 4 WAC soldiers standing here in front of this building. So the thing about it is, today as we travel these trails here that are trails today, were not actually trails back then. They were actually streets. The green trail was actually 1st Street, and so now if we pan back down 1st Street here, or our green trail, you'll see some of the buildings that line both of the streets here. This probably is not particularly 1st Street, but it looked very much like this, and Barracks would have been sitting along those streets. So again, here's a picture of the what the barracks would have looked like, and if you'll notice here in this picture of the ladies' barracks, the foot locker, you know, and we have the foot locker that we saw earlier up at the visitor center, you know. But the thing about it is, you look at the barracks, look just how neat those barracks are. These ladies, they are having to they are soldiers. So, you know, we see the bunk, everything's immaculate. Everything is in its place. So now, you know, these ladies are here. They are training for their specific job that they're going to do. So a lot of that training, the things that they do, from a motor pool mechanic down to clerical work, a lot of this training is going to be done in the classroom. So we are going to move now to the classrooms where these ladies would have done their book study and such, and heard lectures and everything else. So if you will, come with me now. We're going to go over to those classrooms. So as I had mentioned at our last stop, these soldiers had jobs as you know, as bakers, and then they had jobs as mechanics. But a lot of those jobs required classroom study. So where I am standing at right here at this moment is in one of the 5 classrooms, as you can see here on the map. Those 5 diagonal place settings, this is them. So these ladies would come to these classrooms and study seminars and stuff like that. But this particular pad today is being used by the Boy Scouts, and this whole area here is the Boy Scout campground. But you can see here behind me that it's being used kind of as an amphitheater with the fire pit there, and this is where the Boy Scouts will actually do their flag burnings and do the ceremonies where they're going up in the ranks all the way up there to the Eagle Scout and such. Those ceremonies are actually done here on this pad. So one of the things I think about when I see these pads is during World War II there was actually a movie made starring Lana Turner, and the name of that film was Keep Your Powder Dry. And during one of those scenes in that movie, Lana is in one of these classrooms, and they're studying the silhouettes of Allied and enemy aircraft. And Lana is answering each one of the questions about each plane correctly. And one of the girls made mention to her that, you must really know your aircraft getting each one of these right. She said, no, actually I know my pilot. So I thought that was very funny. But I think that's really cool to have a movie that's actually filmed in some of these buildings that were here at the 3rd WAC training facility, and some of the buildings up in Fort Oglethorpe, the North Post. So a lot of these ladies with their jobs, they'll also need to get into the books real hard, and we'll go to that place where you get into those books and doing all that study at our next stop. So here we are now in this special place here, so shh, be very, very quiet, because we're actually standing inside of the library. Now, these ladies would have used this library, like I said, with their book study. Also, I guess if they had some downtime, maybe they would come here to read just a recreational book or two, maybe sit down and write a letter home. But this was the library, and just by the way that you can see the foundation here, and you can see it on the map too, the library was had a specific design to it. As you see here on the map, it looked like a plus sign, and you can see there's part of these structures, these foundation blocks are gone, but you can make out part of the plus sign. So but as the girls had that free time, this would be a place that maybe that they would utilize to pass time, and if any other spare time was given, our next place will show you what would be going on at that point. So with that free time that I was mentioning back at the library, the other thing that these ladies could have done was maybe actually got to call home. You can see in this picture here of these ladies sitting at the switchboards. That is one of the jobs that actually the ladies would train to do, but this particular building here is the telegraph office. You can tell that by looking here at the map itself, and one thing that really gives it away is these holes in the concrete here. Those would be where the lines came up into the switchboard, and as I look at these holes, you know, I just kind of think and wonder just how many conversations went through those lines of these girls maybe calling back home, sending telegraphs back home, and seeing what's happening at home, because that would be a real morale boost to these ladies, because you know they were missing home. This would have been a time when a lot of these women you know, had first time they'd been away from home. But back then, it's not like it was, you know, is now. I can actually just reach here into my back pocket and pull out my cell phone. You know, and there's situations with my son being in the National Guard. I've actually been able to talk to him as he's been deployed, and it wasn't like that during World War II. So these ladies were very, very fortunate to be able to get the call home and send telegraphs and just see what's happening back and forth. So along with that downtime, there was one more thing here on the 3rd WAC training facility that the ladies could attend and get their minds maybe off of what was going on, and just refresh their minds. So if you will, let's go to our last stop. So here we are now at our last stop, and to me this is probably one of my favorite ruins that's been uncovered here on the battlefield, and simply because if you look at this particular building here, you'll notice over here on the pylons used as the foundation, they get taller as they go down. That reason being that the floor is sloping. Now, if you have been up to the visitor center today and went into this particular room, you would have noticed the floor was doing the same thing. So if you remember what that room was, it was the theater. So this is the 3rd WAC Training Facility Theater. The ladies would have come here and saw the latest big Hollywood movies, and saw some of the biggest actors and actresses of the time out of Hollywood. So as these ladies come here, one of the things that they would have seen was the newsreels, the things that were telling them of what was going on over in the European theater and the Pacific theater. So this would have gave them an idea of what contribution that they were contributing to our country by letting those men go over there and fight, and like I've said before, hopefully get this war over with. So these ladies, they done their deed, because this was their war too, and they did serve, and it just opened up the path for them to continue in the military. Today we have female combat soldiers. So this was the beginning of all that, and I want to take the opportunity to thank our volunteers, the Parks Resource Division. Some of the Eagle Scouts came out here and uncovered these ruins, so we really appreciate that, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without them. But this is, they uncovered a great part of this nation's history here that's on this Civil War battlefield, but it being a part of World War II. So I want to thank you for watching this video. I thank you for your attendance, and I hope that you'll come out and see some of these ruins. I also want to invite you to watch our social media platforms. We'll have some more of these type programs on it and study some of the WACs a little bit more in depth. And so I want to just invite you to come and learn.